problem right there. Come on. Hello, my name's ONeils. We're here today to do a crown cleaning. We're going to show you a little bit about how that's done. So firstly, when we get in the tree, what we're looking for is any sort of dead branches. We're looking for crossing branches, anything weakly attached, detached branches, anything rubbing, that sort of thing, and we're going to go through the tree and remove those. Usually we have a specification anywhere from 1 inch on up to 4 inch dead branches, and then we kind of go from there. So the first thing I'm going to show you is we're going to start with a smaller branch here. It's not quite 1 inch that we're going for here, but this is the dead branch we're first going for. It's just a little small branch here, about 1/2 inch. But the first thing on a dead branch, it's not as big of a deal to make such a important cut as it would be on a bigger branch, where we would want to leave some of the branch that's connected to the tissue of the main limb here, the parent stem. So you see this bulge, we would want to leave some of that, along with any sort of branch collar in there, or bark ridge. If you see this here, we kind of remove this, it would be something like that there on a bigger branch. But on a smaller branch, we're going to cut it pretty close, especially when it's dead. But we're going to just do this here and there, and then throw this down. And usually when we're doing this, a lot of debris builds up in the tree. So a lot of times at the end, we got to go through and thoroughly clean the tree out. And sometimes we do miss some, unfortunately, and they hang in the tree and then fall later, but we try to get everything we can. As you can tell, a lot of times it's hard to see what's there, especially in other types of pruning, where we're taking off greener branches with green foliage. So the next branch I'm going to show you is this one here below my foot. We're going to ascend down to it, or descend I should say. And we're going to do the same thing here. Alright, and we're going to remove that branch. And then here we got another branch that does have a little bit of green on it, but the tip's mostly dead there. Now sometimes, if we could, we would try to make a cut on this branch and try to leave anything with green foliage. However, on this branch, what we're going to have a problem with is there's no sufficient lateral to prune back to. A lateral branch, in this case, would be anything that's substantial enough to support or take over the dominant role. So when you're looking at this branch, this would be your lateral branch. However, that's not sufficient. We can't, make a cut here and have this be our branch. So I'd probably get rid of this branch because there's very little foliage left in it. What we don't want to do, though, is end up cutting out all of the interior foliage in the tree. So I'm going to make this a little bit better. Once again, on a dead piece, we want to try to do everything. See, I ripped a little bit there. You don't want to do that. Try to do that as little as possible, but we're going to try to get rid of that dead branch. So that was mostly dead. Probably not much left on it growing. So next, we're going to look for a branch that has some maybe some dead in the tips of the branch, and then we can remove back to a lateral branch. Okay, so the next branch that we want to take off here is this branch right here. We can see the tip of it's dead. There's not really any new buds growing on the top here. There is a little bit of new growth here, but for the most part, this branch is broken. As you can see, this one cracked here. So we're going to come back here. And this branch is a bit bigger, so we're going to try to leave this swelling that I was talking about earlier, like on a smaller branch. You wouldn't have to get rid of that. So what we're going to use here is a 3-step cut, and that's going to be done. I'm going to get my lanyard out of the way here first, hopefully, so I don't cut it. Anyway, so we're going to make an incision on the bottom, and then with a chainsaw, the new technique is actually to come a bit behind your cut. With a hand pruning saw like this, we can come on it or in front of it. The reason a chainsaw would be cut from the back now is because what was happening is guys were catching their chain in the cut and losing the saw to the tree and it's falling below. So on this, since we have a hand saw, I'm going to cut it like this. I'm going to support it as well. And then I'm going to maneuver it down, hopefully. Throw it out of the tree there. Then I'm going to come back, I'm going to make my finish cut. So if we look at the swelling, we can see that swelling, that little ridge. Now I don't mind if my lanyard drops down. That little swelling there and this ridge through here. We don't want to damage that, so we do not want to cut it flush. We want to cut at about a 45-degree angle with this branch. So we're going to do like this. And that's our final cut. And then the next branch we're going to do is this one here, and the reason I wanted to show you this is because we have a larger stem which reaches out to the end of the tree there, which does have some dead wood in it, but it's actually alive for the most part. But this branch here is mostly dead, especially the tip. So what we're going to do here is once again the same thing. First of all, I'm going to tighten my lanyard up so I'm not so far away. Alright, so I'm going to be removing this branch here, and what we're going to do first is make the 3-step cut again. We're going to cut on the bottom where it's going to crack, and then I'm going to come back on the top and make a cut on the top, so that way when it breaks we don't wind up splitting the bark back and peeling it down the branch, which would invite into decay and disease. Make my third cut. And then on this bottom branch here, we also have another one that's dead, as you can see. That's not part of the live foliage, so we're going to see this branch here. I'm going to hold it instead of making my 3 cut because it's small enough that it's not going to shred the bark. And then we got another branch here. So on and so forth. With modern climbing techniques, we've actually been able to get a much better result with these sort of pruning jobs. This sort of setup allows us to get out to the tips of the branches much better than we ever could before. We're using, traditional rock climbing, mountaineering type gear, and that allows us to get down to those tips way out. Now I can show you from here probably how we'd make these cuts so we can keep this branch without losing it. Hopefully we can encourage some upright growth. Gotta be careful with my hand there. Jaws saws are pretty sharp. Here we're gonna go with this branch right here, this small lateral. We're able to keep a lot of it and get rid of some of the downward growth there. Looking for dead branches, obviously. This thing here is kind of inconsequential. It is dead. I'm going to try to cut it out without ripping it off. It's pretty tough on these small branches. And now, of course, I have lost my branch. So here, this branch I'm going to have to lose because it's pretty far down there. So I'm going to cut on the back side here. You can't see. And then we have pretty much a whole branch that's alive. Well, we got a little bit here that's still dead. Let's see what we got. Looks like some small stuff here. Let's see if I can do that. I'm going to come back up. First I'm going to attach this here. This will help bring my knot and everything up to myself. Bring that up, sit back in my saddle. I'm up to where I want to be again. And hook my foot ascender. There's a dead branch right there, look at that. Dead one here. Alright, so now we're back. Next thing I was going to show you is a crossing branch or a rubbing branch. You can see here. This branch isn't really rubbing a lot yet, but it's getting close, and as it gets bigger, it's going to be rubbing this branch, which is a much bigger branch and more, it's better to leave something like this. So what we're going to do here is prune this back to a lateral branch. So a lot of times we try to figure out how we can keep as much foliage as possible. That way we do less stress to the tree every time we're here. So First thing I'm going to try to do here is lift this thing off without having to come back to this stem here. I'm going to prune first this end off and see if I can keep that. I don't know if it's going to actually work, so we'll try it and see what happens. But first I'll start my cut, hopefully, and then I'm going to hold it so I don't rip the bark down. Alright, so we got that out of there. Now see, that's a green branch, but we eliminated the crossing branch. So actually that turned out pretty good without as little damage as possible. Another thing too that I didn't really discuss was when you're doing this sort of work, you really want to try not to clean the entire centers of the tree out. So in other words, when you're in a tree, you want to make sure you keep a lot of interior branches. Those are used for dampening the wind. They're also vital in breaking up nutritional flow up the branch so you get the correct branch growth. Position here, I'm going to see if I can get this branch right here, which is a fairly large branch, actually about a 2-inch branch, dead wood. So obviously I'm going to make my 3-step cut the bottom, so a little bit further up front to the top, and then I'm going to make my last cut. We're going to do that back to the bark ridge there so I don't damage any of the tissue in the branch. I'm also going to take out this branch here, which is dead. Almost got my rope. Pretty good. This kind of just snaps off. Sometimes when they're small, they'll just break and you don't have to cut them. Also, today we got Charlie Diaz climbing with us on the other side of the tree. He's taking out some dead branches over here. We're going to show you a few cuts. See, he made a bigger cut farther out so that the wood wouldn't split. Then he made his final cut in rather than a 3-step cut. Cut there. Pretty big dead piece.